Are you coming at me from LA?
I'm coming at you from Sydney.
Nice. I knew there was an accent, but I didn't know where you were located. Cool.
Yeah, so have you ever been down here?
I've never been and I'm desperate to go. And I feel like now that Girls is done, it's my time.
Yes, you've got to come down. So,
Yep.
what, Lena Dunham, what do you miss most about Girls?
Well, what do I miss most about Girls? Now is the time that we would be probably heading back to work. And I have to say, I miss the people. I mean, the other actors, not just the girls, really became my family. And not being with them every single day, knowing the ins and outs of their lives, I will miss that always. And I miss writing for those characters. Writing for those characters is really the thing that made me a writer. It forced me to problem solve and get creative and work through blocks. And they really became so essential to me. And so I miss my characters.
Mm. Talking about like how you're going to miss the people for this show, I've talked with a couple of people from Girls, a few of the actors, and also Richard Shepard, who directed quite a few of the episodes.
One of
And
my
what
favorite
seems,
collaborators.
yeah, and one of the common sort of themes that sort of runs sort of through my conversations with people is how you invested in people and how that was an important part of the show was the relationships you had with the people that you were working with. How is that important as a writer, director, and sort of star of the show to be sort of investing in the people you're working with?
I think that's something I always thought about this with Robert Altman because he would work with these tight crews and work with the same people over and over again. Cassavetes did similar things. And I always think that, we think there's all these people in the world, all these fish, the same attitude we have about dating. There's so many fish in the sea. But the fact is, to find someone you collaborate with on a deep and abiding level, that's really unusual. And so if I found somebody who I could connect with creatively, I am not letting them go. So should not be surprised if you see girls actors appearing in my future projects, if you see us continuing to work together, because it's just such a profound thing to find people who understand your vision. And what I do is very specific. I wouldn't blame an actor if they didn't want to perform those humiliating sex scenes or they wanted to play more likable characters. To me, it would be boring, but I would understand if that wasn't what they were sort of like in the biz for. And so the fact that I found these amazing people, these amazing actors, and then people like Richard who could take my words and my ideas and translate them so well and put their own spin on them, those are people I'm never going to let go of.
Hmm. It's funny they mentioned like sort of how some actors would rather play more likable characters. As someone who watched Girls all the way through, sometimes I found the characters quite unlikable or frustrating. Sometimes even I thought it was funny that a show called Girls, sometimes I found the guy characters more likable. Do you think partly that's because I'm a guy that I related more with the guys on the show, or was that more just
No, I think the girls on the show were pretty maddening. And I think that something we were trying to do on the show was really show that women, I mean, we've had so many shows throughout history where the kind of hero has been an anti-hero, whether it's Breaking Bad or whether it's, Al Bundy. It's like we have these shows where men are allowed to just play these exhausting, ridiculous people, and then women sort of have to just nod along. And so we thought, like, we want to have the fun for once. And we did. And that's not saying our male characters were all perfectly behaved, but it was really fun to let the girls go wild in that way. And it was amazing to see people's reactions because people got so angry. I would say, like, people are angrier at Hannah for being rude to her boyfriend than they are at Tony Soprano for whacking somebody. Like, I really learned a lot about what people will and won't accept from women on television. And my hope is that after Girls, people will accept more from women on television and understand that we aren't these sort of perfect untouchables. We're complex and we're multifaceted, and we have to be allowed to express that.
Mm. What do you think, and that answer might tie in a bit with this, but what do you think the voice of Girls has been over the past 6 years on television?
A lot's been said about sort of what Girls represented. And, whether it was representing millennial women, whether it was representing millennial white women, whether it was representing upper middle class delusional women. I mean, there was a lot of debate about, like, who's this show for? What's this show saying societally? All of those questions. But at the end of the day, what I really hope that people take away is that it was also a show where we were all as a group really thinking about craft and really thinking about how to bring a cinematic take to television and to take movies that we loved, whether it was, you know, an unmarried woman or whether it was, you know, an Elaine May movie like A New Leaf, or whether it was a movie like Clueless, and take this sort of cinematic tropes and bring them to TV and really work with them and try to make a mini movie every single week that gave people a certain kind of satisfaction. And so I think besides the voice of girls being a voice that really wanted to welcome women to television in a new way, it was also a show that really wanted to take filmmaking and my love of filmmaking and Jenny's love of filmmaking and Richard's love of filmmaking and translate it to the screen.
Mm. Do you have a fondest memory from the series?
I would say that anytime we went away together as a cast, so whether it was for season 3 episode, I think it's episode 6, Beach House, or whether it was for the first episode of the new season, where we were all in Montauk, or whether it was, you know, just the overnight that I did this season with Allison and Evan, Desi and Marnie. Anytime we went away and stayed away together as a cast, we bonded so hard and had such beautiful experiences, and the crew had such beautiful experiences as a group, because we were taken, like, you know, I remember when we did Beach House, we had no cell service. So suddenly everybody like couldn't just have their faces in their phones. They had to actually be investing in each other. And we learned so much. That's probably when I learned everybody's kid's name.
Mm. Yeah. You still there, Lena?
I'm here. Are you still there?
Good. Yeah, you just froze for a second. You learned everyone's kids' names at Beach House. No, it's fine. Probably not your fault. So what was the last scene you shot on Girls?
The last scene that we shot is in the season finale when Hannah is walking home pantsless, being followed by the police officer. And so, of course, it was very fitting that my last scene was without pants. And we did a few takes. And as I started to realize that it was the last scene, I started to cry. And since the scene didn't require crying, finally we had to put a stop to it, because there was no way I was going to get my tears back. Once they started, there was no way they were going to stop.
Yeah. How did the
Jenny
feelings...
was directing me, and she's my best friend and my work partner. And so that was a very intense experience.
Mm. How did those feelings that were going through your head when cut was called on that final scene compare to the feelings that were going through your head when they called action on the first scene of Girls 6 years earlier?
Well, it's an amazing question, because I think both involve sheer terror, because when they called action for the first time, I was like, can I do this? I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm the right person for this job. I don't know if I'm capable of it. What if I fuck this up? What if I'm prove to people this is why you don't give shows to 25-year-old girls? What if I screw everything up? And I was terrified. I didn't know what it was like to be around a crew. I didn't know what it was like to connect in that way. And then I think when they called cut, I also felt, besides pride and excitement, I also felt a lot of terror, because I thought, what is next? What is next for all of us? And did we make a mistake in ending the show when we have this amazing dynamic between us? And I think our reaction to our final season, which was so beautiful and wholehearted from people, really proved to me that we chose the right time to end the show, and we chose the right time to put a conclusion to those stories.
Mm. Do you feel like that's interesting, sort of, as a sort of 25-year-old woman thinking through, oh, though, if I do a bad job of this, will people think that was a mistake? Do you think there's, like, in some ways more of a pressure on women or young people, in that not just if they fail are people going to say, oh, Lena Dunham's failed, let's not give her another show, but it might be, oh, let's not give another young person a show, let's not give another woman a show.
I mean, there's a huge pressure on women, and it's not just young women. There's also a pressure on older women, because there's ageism in both directions. And every woman who's given an opportunity in Hollywood is considered a litmus test for everyone else's opportunity, which is why people get so excited when something happens like Patty Jenkins' success with Wonder Woman, because it makes studios go, oh yeah, a woman can do this. And when a man has a failure, it's considered his own. And when a woman has a failure, it's considered a failure of women at large. And so you really do feel as though you're holding the burden and the intensity of women's visibility in Hollywood on your shoulders. And I felt that even as even as someone who was new to the industry and fairly ignorant about that, I felt that very deeply.
Yeah, that's a shame, but like interesting too. What do you think, Lena? The American Bitch episode was a big one. This most recent season of the show.
Something I'm proud of.
Yeah. What were you trying to say with that, and why are you particularly proud of that episode?
Well, you know, it's interesting. We were just talking about misogyny in Hollywood, because that was sort of the episode in which I put all my feelings about sort of misogyny and the ways in which men manipulate their power to, you know, confuse and humiliate women who may be looking to also express themselves. And we find it in Hollywood, women, you know, whether it's the casting couch or whether it's women being hit on by producers and sort of being subtly told that they'll have opportunities, or even if it's just men lording their creative power over women and women thinking, I want a piece of that, and, you know, feeling pressured to have a romantic interaction rather than a creative interaction. I wanted to look at all of that. And then I also wanted to look at the ways that women and everyone are implicit in every single interaction that they have. And that is something that's really powerful, and a conversation that I have a lot with my other friends who are both in fields creative and not creative, who feel as though older men wielding their power is something that they just simply can't avoid. And so I wanted to have a nuanced conversation about it in which there was no villain and there was no good guy, and really also just tell a really kind of suspenseful story in half an hour that felt like it was in some ways its own film. And Richard and I collaborated so closely. It was a really great and emotional experience.
And yeah, it was interesting how that episode sort of took turns. Like, it wasn't like huge plot twist like turns, but it was sort of the relationship between Hannah and Matthew Rhys's character. Sort of at times you saw different perspectives and different ideas, and then at the end it sort of turns around. Yeah.
That was the goal, was that at every single moment you weren't exactly sure who was winning and whether there was a winner and whether there could even be a winner. Yeah.
And it's so interesting how relevant that episode continues to be, with things like even the Cosby trial and the state of politics in America at the moment. A lot of stuff that has sort of happened.
We wrote that episode long before the Trump grab him by the pussy situation, and we actually were shooting the episode when that came out, and it was just a really wild thing to be shooting that episode while the person who was a front runner for the president of our country was, you know, being caught kind of glorifying sexual assault on tape. And so that has been a really, really, really I mean, it was painful in a way to put that episode out and to hear how many women had those experiences. I wish fewer women came to me and said, oh, that's my life. But unfortunately, a lot of them did. And a lot of women in Hollywood really reached out to me after that and told me that it really echoed their experience.
Was it helpful for those women to have something like that out there?
I think I did get a lot of thank yous from women who said that it reflected their experience. And I also got a lot of notes from men saying that it opened their eyes to what the women in their lives dealt with. And that to me is really powerful too.
Yeah. Oh no, that is good. What, Lena, what's another moment from the final season that you're particularly proud of?
An episode I love is episode 8. What are we going to do about Adam this time? What are we going to do this time about Adam? Which I wrote with, ooh, this just disappeared.
Who? I can still, I'm here.
You can still see me?
I can still see you and hear you.
Oh, good. Okay, sorry. Got it. Perfect. Right. Never mind. But so anyway, I'm proud of that episode. Judd Apatow and I wrote it together, and he and I have always loved writing together ever since episode 6 of season 1, in which Hannah went home to her house in Michigan. And we just thought about what is the most complex and profound way we can end the relationship between Hannah and Adam. And it was a really, really, really special episode to write and a special episode to shoot, because Adam Driver had been such an important scene partner for me for such a long time.
Yeah. And what do you think, what did Hannah learn over the course of the series? If anything.
Great question. I know, if anything is the operative question, but you know, I do think that what happened was that, especially in becoming a mother, but even before she became a mother, when she started to have to care for her parents in a different way, that she just learned to look outside of herself. She learned that the center of the universe was not the inside of her own mind. And that was kind of all I wanted her to learn, was that there were other people and they had feelings too.
And Lena, what have you learnt over the course of sort of making girls and that sort of period of your life?
Over the course of making girls, I have learned everything. I mean, I started writing the show when I was 23 and I'm 31 now. So the fact is that I learned everything, whether it was, you know, everything happened to me during that. I moved out of my parents' house. I entered into my first long-term relationship. I had my first job. I had my first heartbreak. I had my first, you know, moving in with a boyfriend. I had my first moving in to a new house with a boyfriend. I had my first, you know, creative differences and creative breakups and friend breakups, and everything happened against the backdrop of the show. So to me, growing up and making girls are completely indistinguishable from each other. And so I can watch an episode and what somebody else just sees is, you know, the one where Hannah does cocaine, I see is, oh, that was the one where my best friend and I got in this terrible fight, and that was the one where we did this, and that was one, like, all my memories are tied up in the show, and that's really, really, really powerful.
Oh, that's cool. How are you most similar to Hannah, and how are you most different to Hannah?
I would say Hannah and I are most similar in that we are extremely anxious, and we can be a little bit in our own heads, which is a nice way of saying self-involved and neurotic, and we both like exercise. We don't like to be told what to do. We're most different in that I'm much more concerned about how the people around me feel and what they think of me, and whether I'm performing my duties appropriately as a sister and a partner and a daughter and whatever. I'm much more, I hope, aware of other people's inner lives than Hannah is, and try to be more generally caring and a little less self-involved.
Yes. Do you think you named Hannah's child Grover? Is that a Sesame Street reference, or?
We figured that since it was suggested by her baby daddy, and he doesn't seem to have read a lot of books, that he was probably making a Sesame Street reference.
Yeah, that's cool. You a big fan of?
I do love Grover. I do love the character. Although I like to think that Hannah thought, like, maybe it's Grover Cleveland, important American politician, and he thought, no, it's Sesame Street. So but I thought it did seem like a good. It did seem like the right name for her baby, Grover Theo Horvath.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't Elmo.
I know, that would have been a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Huge mistake.
It's he's sort of more new school Sesame Street, or like the sort of vintage characters. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. How much has the awards recognition that girls received over the years been? You and Adam Driver got a lot of nominations. Peter Scolari won your first acting Emmy award last year.
We're so proud of him. That was if that's the only acting award we ever get, I'll be the happiest person in the world. And honestly, for me, like, I know that for some people, I love the Emmys just because I love to be around other performers and tell people I'm a fan and put on a fancy dress. But I've never been somebody who needed the kind of like tradition. I was never the kid in school who needed the A, and I was never the kid who needed the plaque that said, you know, best swimmer or whatever. For me, the reward, I know this sounds like a lie, is really in making the work. But I get really excited when my colleagues are recognized for what they do. Like, it would make me so happy this year if there was some recognition for the acting work of my colleagues on the show, because if Richard was nominated for his directing on American Bitch, or, you know, if Judd and Jenny were nominated for their writing on the season finale. Like, those are the things that really make me so happy.
You'd probably be like this anyway, but is being sort of the showrunner, creator, like writer, director sort of, and lead on the show, you do feel a bit like of ownership of, not ownership, but like when other people get nominated, you sort of want to help other people a bit, you sort of feel that leadership.
I feel like Girls has given me everything I ever needed. It's given me a home to live in. It's given me a home spiritually. It's given me the chance to write professionally, which is all I ever wanted from the minute I could think and walk and talk. And I knew there was no other job I could reasonably do, and I would be fired from every other job. So Girls has given me everything that I ever could have wanted or dreamed of or thought of. And so I just feel as though there was just never going to be another way, and it was just the most important thing that could ever happen to me. And so really I want it to give the same thing to everybody else. And I know that in the world, especially for actors, something like an Emmy is a big deal. So I just feel like it's a much bigger deal and a better thing if like Andrew Rannells or Allison or Zasha or Jemima or Adam gets an award than I do. If there's only so much to go around, I'd prefer that they receive it.
Yes, and you won a Golden Globe for the show, and you won Best Comedy Series there. So.
I'm always sometimes I'll be like, I'm a bad actor, and then I'll be like, well, I'm a Golden Globe winning bad actor. Like I'll be like, because I can't like do like accents or play a person from the 1800s, or like I don't have those kinds of magical acting skills. I can sort of play myself and then various versions of pissed off Jewish women. And so when I think to myself, or when I'm having a down day on set, I'll go, I'm a Golden Globe winning actor. And it never sounds real.
It's nice. And we've had a couple of your dogs in the background, Lena. What are their names?
Yeah. That's Karen and Susan. They're just doodling around the house right now. They're really enjoying their lives. Susan is watching very intently. I think she likes your accent.
Ah, nice, Susan. Thank you. We've got we met Alison Williams' dog when we were chatting with.
Oh yeah, I'm sure Moxie came right up to the screen. She's very social.
She was out for the count. She was having a nap. Lena?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. She was out for the count. She was having a nap.
Oh, good. Yep, Moxie.
Yeah. There you go. Lena Dunham, thanks so much for talking Girls with us today and talking Emmy Awards.
Honor, and thank you for respecting what we do and for talking to all of us. We're really, really grateful.
No worries, and we're really excited with the Emmy Awards and whatever's coming next for you, Lena.
Let's hope that it's something else that I'll get to talk to Gold Derby about.
Yes, let's do it, and hopefully you get down to Sydney one day too. That'll be fun.
I would love it. Big fan of Australian television. Huge fan. Please Like Me is one of my favorite shows.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. The Josh Thomas one.
Obsessed. I'm totally obsessed. And then also Summer Heights High. And then Kate Shortland is one of my favorite directors. Jane Campion. So I'm an Aussie file, so I better get there.
Yeah, you better come down. Do you think you'd want to come down for a holiday or to do something? Like to work?
I would love to do something like at the Sydney Opera House. I've always had a dream of doing a project at the Sydney Opera House and then having a little holiday after that.
Well, they just had like
out to the world.
This could be something for next year, but they just had a writers' festival in Sydney. You come down and like speak at the writers' festival or something like that.
Yeah.
Like Armando Iannucci was down this year to speak about sort of writing and politics and stuff and in the town hall or something.
From your mouth to God's ears, I'm in.
Yeah, okay. Go on down later. It'll be great to see you. Okay.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thanks for chatting.
Bye.
Bye.